Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Fab Four podcast. Today, we've got a special guest for us, kind of a rock star or television celebrity, or used to be a celebrity anyway. We have Raechal Martin. Is that correct, Raechal?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Raechal.
Thanks for
Today,
having me.
we're joined with, as usual, our fellow podcast members. We're kind of a Fab Three. Looks like we're missing one, but we've got Alic Williams with us. Alic, a 2018 graduate of Taylor County High School, and the old guys. You got Scott Franklin, a Campbellsville Eagle from 1985. Tells you how old we are, and a 1985 graduate from Adair County High School. And so again, Raechal, we're so glad that you are with us today. And you were on the show, Last Chance U, season 3 and 4.
Yes.
Golly, what a crazy Netflix series that is. Tell us a little bit about
it. As far as the experience of having them with the how
did all that come about?
Last Chance U is the documentary series that kind of follows football players is what they highlight, but you may or may not know that they are also starting to and they just recently filmed for basketball too. So today is the launch or the release date for the last season of Last Chance U for football. So they won't be doing football anymore, but the experience. So I started at Independence Community College, which is where it was filmed. Seasons 3 and 4. I was there a year before we ever knew anything about cameras.
Gotcha.
And then I just, over the summer, was like, or at the end of that school year, they had come and cameras showed up for our spring game.
Right.
And they had been at Garden City as well. The crew had come from Garden City and was looking at them as well. So I honestly thought that that's where they were going to be because Garden City had talked about it before. And so then over the summer, I found out that they would be there. And I had very little in the decision-making process, and it was like one of those things, like, here they are.
Yeah.
So that's kind of came about.
Just so with the viewers know, you are the trainer.
I was the head athletic trainer, at the college. Yep. Mm-hmm.
For Independence, was that Independence U, or how was
Independence Community College is the name of the school. Yes. And so I was the head athletic trainer, and then we had one assistant athletic trainer, and it was the two of us that provided sports medicine for all of the sports. You see us with football, but yeah.
Right, I got you.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go a little round robin here, and we'll start with Alic, and he'll throw a question at you, and then we'll go to Mr. Frank, come back to me. So we'll just kind of throw some questions at you.
Sounds good.
All right, Raechal. Of course, Jason Brown was a big star on the Netflix series. Tell us a little bit about working with Coach Brown during your time at Independence.
Well, what you guys see on TV is a small snippet of his everyday life. So most of the time he's not elevated like that. So as far as me working with him, I had a great working relationship with him. He made sure that I had everything I needed to do my job well. We communicated well. So I didn't really see a lot of that besides observing it when it came out. So yeah, he's pretty chill.
Raechal, prior to Independence Community College, tell me a little bit about how you got into athletic training. Where did you go to college at? Did you have previous jobs at other schools as a trainer that led you to get to Independence College, and how the heck did you get there?
Okay, well, it's a fun story. So I actually started athletic training back in high school. So we did not have an athletic trainer at our high school when I was in school. But we had a college that had a program. So I would go learn how to tape ankles or like whatever kids would have, like my classmates, And so I started doing that in high school. So when I got to college, I knew what I wanted my major to be. But I took a nice little round trip around Kansas to get there. So I did a year at K-State and realized I might not be prepared for the university life. So I transferred back to Cali.
It happens.
Yeah. I transferred back to Cali County Community College, which was closer to home, and got myself together. And then when I was ready to transfer back, I ended up going to Wichita State. My siblings were having kids and just wanted to be a little bit closer to home. And so when I did that, though, I had to start completely over. So I actually have 2 bachelors because they made me go for 4 full years, even though I'd already been in school to be in that program. But I knew I didn't want to change my major. So then I went to grad school out in St. Louis for 2 years at Lindenwood University. And then from there, I was looking at either moving to California or Texas. I was not going back to Kansas. Like, it was the last thing on my mind to do, right? And God had other plans. And I ended up with a job interview in Garden City, Kansas. Like, I was just applying for jobs everywhere, and somebody had sent it to me, and I was like, well, I'll apply. And then I got the interview, so I was like, well, might as well go practice my interview skills, like, not even taking it seriously. And then I ended up on a plane, like, out in Montana, and I had 3 job offers. Like, I was going to interview there, flying home, and Garden City was the best offer. So I ended up in Garden City for 3 years.
Okay.
Which is how I met Coach Brown. And then Coach Brown, at the end of that season, that in 2015, he had gotten hired as the head coach at Independence. And then that next spring, they needed a head athletic trainer. And so they had reached out to me. And I'm originally from Kansas, and Independence is much closer to where I'm from than Garden City was. And so it was a step up. And so I took the job in March of 2016. And that's how I got there.
Wow, you've kind of
Awesome.
been around the training world there.
Yep. Yeah.
So what were your roles when, you obviously, television, they kind of make it to the most entertaining, and they add and subtract. And I think I watched an interview with Coach Brown that said that there were like 800 hours of tape on him, and they used maybe 15 hours of it, and they diced it up. What were now you were there, and you were around it all the time. Were cameras around you all the time, or around the program all the time? Did they only film on days, or how'd that
The
work?
only day they didn't film was Sundays.
Okay.
Other than that, they were always at practice. They were always at games. And then it just depended. So they would have like scheduled times certain places because they only had 2 cameras shooting. So they might be like in a classroom in the morning. They might be, it depended on who they were following around and kind of like what was happening in the day. So they always usually had one with Coach Brown and like the coaching side of and the staff. And then they usually had one like with the players. So that's why it depended on who was in to see me at what times and who they were following would be based on when they would come in.
Gotcha.
And I would see them more than at practice.
So did you get to interact with the total cast? Because I know the cast members were like the lady that did the teacher, the academic advisor, and obviously Coach Brown and did you interact a lot with the other characters on the show?
Yeah, because we were just living our life. Like, it wasn't like
it wasn't scripted. I mean,
no. So, but the thing is, it's a really small campus, and I worked with them anyways. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Alic?
All right, Raechal. So you actually left Independence, right?
Yeah.
And can you go a little bit of your decision of why you left Independence and what you're doing now?
Okay, so I decided to leave. I had a job opportunity and just kind of wanted to transition to some other things. So I decided to move to Austin, Texas last year. And I have been working with a technology. It's called guided PEMF. And I went to massage school so that I would be able to do that more freely. Think of it as like a charged up massage. So it feels kind of like stem through my fingers. And so I had been working with the athletes on that, and it just was something that like I felt like I could kind of go out on my own and do. And then I'd also gotten an opportunity to work with the LFL, which is Legends Football League. It's women's indoor tackle football.
Wow.
And
Didn't
so
even know it existed.
yeah, it's actually they disbanded, and it's the X League now. But they didn't get to have a season this year because of COVID. But yeah, so the X League is what it's called now. But anyway, so I would fly out every Friday and then work the game on Saturday and then fly back to Austin on Sundays.
Okay.
And I was in school Monday through Thursday. So once school got out, then I'm mobile for what I do. And so I just see my clients, I go to them and work with them, which is why I'm in Vegas right now. So I do contract work and still do athletic training stuff, kind of like PRN. So, yeah.
Scott?
Raechal, ironically, my daughter graduated from Eastern Kentucky University and got a degree in athletic training.
Mm-hmm.
And she currently is the trainer for Taylor County school system.
Mm-hmm.
And my question for you is this. I know listening to her and Mr. McQueary there still has to deal with these things. All coaches want something all the time. Trainers want something all the time, even at the high school level where there's how many sports are at Taylor County, Paul? If you count boys and girls, 26 teams, 27 teams with one trainer. And she's always saying, we need this, we need that, the coach needs this. At an JUCO, you know, we know that it's not like Division I. We know that that it's kind of limited. As an athletic trainer, what type of supplies, or did you get what you needed, or was it hard to get the things that the football team needs, the basketball team, and whatever sports that you had to deal with?
Well, working at 2 different junior colleges, I can tell you this. I had different budgets at both places. I also had more student athletes at Garden City because there was 15 sports. And one of the reasons that I was like so interested in taking the independence job is that there was only 6 sports. So there was 2 people.
Oh, wow.
So imagine this. So both places, there was 2 people. One place had 15 sports and one place had 6. So to me, it was a little more manageable to work, you know, with only 6 sports. But to say that we had what we need, no. Like supplies wise, we did. But as far as like care for the athletes, which is one of the other reasons why I decided to leave, because I didn't feel like I was able to provide the level of care that I thought the athletes deserved. And I felt like I needed to get myself out of the situation to figure out how I could like find a way to make things better in that realm. But your daughter will probably tell you the same thing, that we just, most athletic programs are undersupplied with athletic trainers.
Alic, I'm going to move on to you. My dog is barking, so I'm having to mute my.
I thought that was Alic. I thought he was hungry or something.
It wasn't me. So Raechal, talk about, because you're in Vegas right now. So talk about why you're in Vegas and what's going on in Vegas right now. Because you're in a current.
Yeah, so I'm in a bubble right now. I've been in a bubble since the middle of July, and I'll be here for a couple more days. So it's the 5 tournament, which has a bunch of the big 3 players in it. So the big 3 didn't get to have their season this summer. And so the 5 tournament is kind of like that condensed version of what they've got going on. So there's 6 different cities that are represented. So it's a bunch of NBA alumni. So we've got Mario Chalmers here, Nate Robinson, Mike Bibby, to just name a few. And then tonight, what I'm really excited about and why I'm getting on the bus today is we also have some WNBA ladies here. So so the guys have been playing, and then the women came in and, quarantined and did their bubble thing to join us. And we're having a 5-on-5 full court WNBA alumni, NBA alumni game tonight. So
wow,
pretty excited about that. Yeah.
You're hanging out with some cool people. I mean, you've got some stories.
Coach, I'm sure Vegas and Independence are basically the same.
They're pretty much the same, right?
So, Raechal, let me ask you something. You were talking about some type of electrical massage or whatever thing. Does that work good for old retired guys? Because
it works great for everybody. Yeah.
I mean, he's old, decrepit. I mean, look at him. I mean, he's getting silver. I mean, he's old.
Mm-hmm.
At least I got some hair, McQueary.
I work with all ages.
There you go. So what is your kind of, as they ask in job interviews, kind of what's your 5-year plan from now? What do you see yourself doing? I mean, you sound like you have this, it's just kind of it's just kind of building, is snowballing on itself.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
do you have an idea where you're going to be in 5 years?
No idea. Not even in the slightest. Nope. If you would have told me that I would be where I'm at, like, today, I would not have believed you.
Really?
So a year ago, like when I first started, I had no idea. I just knew that my machine worked and I knew that I got good results from it. But as far as like the networking and the opportunities that I've had to get where I'm at now, like I wouldn't have told you that I would have been here. So I have no idea where I'll be in 5 years.
Do you travel? I know you said you're in Vegas now and you do in things. What's some of the crazy places you've been, to do your athletic training? Have you been like out of the country or anything doing that?
Not to work. I haven't been out of the country yet. That was one of the other things is like there had been potential opportunities for me to work out of the country before we had some things get canceled with the LFL. And so I'm sure those opportunities are coming. But I've kind of been LA. I mean, just your big cities, really. Even with like, we used to go to Florida every year with softball in grad school. So, I only have 5 states left to visit. So I've pretty much been all over the U.S.
That's pretty cool. I'm only 5 left. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Alic, you got anything else?
Yeah. Of course, you were there 1 year with Coach Harris, and then 2 years with Coach Brown. Is that right?
No. So when Coach Harris took over, so Coach Brown kind of stole my thunder because I was getting ready to announce that I was leaving, and he had gotten fired the week before.
Okay.
I was waiting till the end of basketball season because I just wanted to make sure everything was lined up before I made my announcement. But yeah, so we left basically at the same time. So Coach Harris was there as the coordinator and such, but he was not. No, Coach Brown was there for my full 3 years. We got there at the same time. Yeah.
Scott?
I know that there's a lot of pressure to win at every level, even where Paul's at Taylor County High School. There's people around here think we ought to win every game and every sport. And so coaches are under a lot of pressure. What type of pressure were you put under, whether that was at Garden City or whether that was at Independence, when athletes were injured and the coaches wanted to know, when are they going to be ready to go? Did you feel a lot of pressure? Did coaches put pressure on you to get people back? Or is that long gone and people don't go nuts as coaches and demand to get them back whether they're ready or not and rush the process?
No, I never felt like a lot of pressure. I'm pretty competitive myself, so I'm not going to just like let somebody sit out because they don't want to do anything. I'm going to kind of push them. There's a level and a reasonable boundary to that. So I would say after working with, and Coach Brown had already worked with me previously, so it helped kind of transitioning into that head role. But at Garden City especially, I didn't feel that pressure because when you've worked with somebody and you've gained their respect and they know and trust that like you're making the best decision for the kid and for them at all times, whatever I say kind of went. So I didn't have that like back and forth. There was, there's instances here and there, but for the most part, it was pretty much what I said went, and I didn't get a lot of pushback on changing that or making it quicker than it was going to be.
I know
it was what it was.
You got kids that want to play, coaches want to play.
Yeah, I want them to play.
Yeah, they suffer a concussion. The protocol says do this, 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 and this, and until you reach the end, that's when you can play. But everybody kind of sometimes wants to speed it up.
Well, and the frustrating part about concussions is that I'm actually really appreciative for the show to kind of bring this to the forefront, because I didn't realize that I was being lied to, and I can only go off of a checklist of things that, like, if these are all being passed and they're not, and they're saying that they're symptom free, right, to me, and they're able to pass the cognitive things that we put them through to kind of, be those gatekeepers to check it off, and they're passing it, and they're still having symptoms and they're not being truthful about that. Like, it's out of my hands at that point, that I feel like it should be a much bigger discussion. But yeah, that would probably be the one thing that it was like, yeah, the kids want to get back and I want them to, but I also know the long-term effects. So that's why it was by this. And if you're lying about that, like, I don't know.
Right.
Until I watch a show that everybody else watches at the same time and find out.
How much fun did you have going back and watching the show? And do you still stay in contact with any of the players?
Oh, yeah. I actually haven't watched all of it ever.
Really?
It's weird. I mean, I lived it once, so it's like weird to go back and watch it. People have it on, and I'm like, oh, that was fun, or, so every once in a while, but I've never just sat down and watched it. I'm not much of a binger in general, though. As far as players, yeah, like, so this past fall, I got to go to Nevada and the Utah State game, so I got to see Malik Henry and DJ Williams play against each other. I went and watched Rakeem play at the Arkansas A&M game up in Dallas. Let's see, who else did I see? Yeah, a bunch of kids. So I keep in touch with a lot of them still. Social media is a great way to keep in touch, but yeah.
I always thought it was interesting when I watched the show. I would always Google, the name, because obviously the show's like a year behind. So,
right.
So I'd always Google and see, did that kid make it at Auburn or make it at Louisiana Tech and all that good stuff. For the most part, there's a lot of success stories that come out of JUCO, and there's also some disappointments that come from those guys. Did the cameras being around, did you have a sense, did it make some of the reactions bigger? Do you think some of the kids played to the cameras? And where I'm going with that is, like, I'm an old school coach. I coached years ago, and Mr. Franklin's coached for years. But when you say something, those coaches would say something, and immediate they would get that pushback from the player. And, the players were barking at the coaches barking at the player. Was that a lot of editing, or did that actually take place during that time?
Oh yeah, no, it all took place. Okay. I remember, I don't know if you guys remember the Dodge City game where one of the coaches came at Coach Brown in the timeout, and I was just like, you can't make this stuff up. Like, I looked at Greg and I was like, this is TV gold. Like, what? This is all the time though. So it's just funny because it's like, this is my life all the time. And other people are just getting to see it. Yeah. But as far as the cameras, like, when they first got on campus that first year, like, there just was a lot of everybody trying to be in front of it. But after them being there for like 2 weeks, it wore off pretty quickly. So, and the crew was fabulous. Like, I actually still keep in touch with a lot of them as well, because they're stuck in, a remote place for them, and we're all kind of there together. So, I wouldn't say that a lot of it was like played up for the cameras. I would say like the second year, it felt more like more people came because of the show, like to school, versus the year before, everybody had just already been there. Everybody was committed, and nobody knew that the cameras were coming until that summer. And so recruiting was a little different for that second year, which I think you see as the season plays out.
Yeah. So speaking of the crew that came with the show, so, and of course, I've never been associated with anything like that, so it's just curious. Those folks, do they house on campus, or do they?
No, they have a hotel that they stay in.
And they're there. I mean, that's their job basically for a year, is to cover that football program.
It's 4 months, but yeah.
Okay, 4 months.
Yeah,
okay.
So basically from the beginning of football season until the end. So from August to November, and then they leave, and then everything goes back to be edited.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Alic?
Okay, Raechal. So did you watch Last Chance U before it came to Independence?
Yeah, I watched. Okay. Oh, I watched season 1. Like, we had talked about it, and we actually all watched it together at Coach Brown's house. Like over like a couple of days, we were working and we had a barbecue, so we turned it on, and then I kept watching it. And that was before we ever knew anything about it coming. But what's funny is kids used to say, like, you remind me of that lady off Last Chance U. And so then it was funny because then they were coming. But I never watched the second season because when it came out was when they were going to show up. And I just didn't want to, like, have any expectations. So I have never actually seen the second season either.
So are you going to watch the season that just came out today? Are you going to watch it?
So I turned a little bit of it on last night because I'm out here and I was still up working on some of the guys last night. And so I did turn it on for a little bit. So I'll probably have it on. I don't know how quickly I'll watch it, but.
Well, it started out pretty good. I watched the first one today. So
yeah,
it's not bad.
Different. You had time to watch TV today?
It was raining outside, so I didn't get to go do a little work. So I did some
retired guy.
Some domesticated canning and freezing and watching Last Chance U.
Yeah.
I've got one last question for Raechal. It's a two-parter. First of all, where were you at when the fight broke out, and what did you do in the middle of all of that mayhem that seemed to break out? And my last question is, do you think that Coach Brown will get an opportunity at a higher level or go back to being a head coach at a JUCO? Or what are your thoughts on possibly what he might be in his future?
Well, the fight was after are you talking about the Garden City, the little
Yeah,
scuffle?
the
I won't
Garden
even
City,
call it a
yeah.
fight. Nobody even threw a punch.
Yeah, well,
but
a bunch of jawing.
it was like, it was a movement of people from one side to the other. But no, so I was on the sideline trying to pack stuff up because it was at the end of the game. So like we're like trying to dump coolers and everything. And all of a sudden I see two of my guys going over there like they're gonna do something. Like we're not, like we have stuff to do, which is why I was telling them to get back over. And then as far as Coach Brown going back, it's one of those things like, you know, he has his podcast now. He has, you know, his book and other entrepreneurial things. And I feel like when you get that freedom of making your own schedule and doing that, you know, I've been asked the same thing, like, will you ever go back? Will you ever go back? It would have to take the right opportunity. And I feel like that probably would be the same for him, just because, you know, some schools, I'm sure, like with him being a public figure now and that sort of thing, that they might be skeptical about having them, you know, and having that attention. So it would be hard to say, but it's probably about the same for me. And, you know, like, it's just one of those things that would just have to be a right situation.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, Raechal, we know you are pressed for time and you're a busy person, and we just want to thank you for joining us on the show today.
Of course.
It's so interesting to hear when you're, you know, for us regular guys and regular Joes, when you hear just some of that crazy stuff that goes on around, something that you're seeing on television. It's always kind of neat to talk to a personality that kind of has a little more background, that, you know, kind of behind the scenes stuff that really nobody knows about. Because all we see is the hour of mayhem that's going on there.
Right.
So, but we really appreciate you coming on. So thank you very much.
Of course. Yes. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Alic, you want to close us out?
Sure. We will be back on Thursday with former Eastern Kentucky University basketball star Austin Newton and Campbellsville High School legend Austin Newton. And we'd like to thank Raechal for coming on the show, like Paul said. And this has been the Fab Four Podcast.